Hello, drum school and drummer friends. It's Alan here. Hope everybody's keeping well. Right, we are in the Grade 1 Rock School Talk Through series, and we are now going to be looking at West Coast Rollin. Hopefully, you've got your book in front of you. Hopefully, you're sitting at your kit. If not, at least you need your drumsticks to sit and maybe air drum along to this before you get a chance to sit down at your kit and work at this properly, okay? But at least you need to have your book in front of you. This piece is on page 42. It's one of the Rock School classics, and it's really good little hip-hop piece, okay? So we're going to start at the start, but I think Grade 1 drummers, you should be able to play that pattern. It's this sort of tempo. 1, 2, 3. All right, we're kind of this here sort of tempo. Okay, so that pattern there, I think for Grade 1 you should be able to play that by now. All right, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Starts with that crash, and then in relation to the open hi-hats, don't forget, if you've been watching some of these other videos in this series, you'll know that I keep saying we're going to look at the open hi-hat techniques and actually how to play them properly, how to work on the technique of playing that in a separate video. So rather than get into it in this lesson here, we're going to look at that and all the others in a separate video on its own. Okay, what I want to look at is in that fourth bar, okay, because there's a thing that crops up in this piece, I think 4 or 5 times actually, and it's simply crotchets on the bass drum, quarter notes on the bass drum, what we sometimes drummers refer to as 4 to the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 to the floor or 4 on the floor, all right? So in this kind of hip-hop, my day probably would have called this a sort of like a funky type style, you know. But so in this hip-hop piece, we've got this going on, and we've got different things happening up above, all right? So we've got 4 to the floor, and we're in bar 4. Section A, bar 4. So again, let me just, I'm hopping about here. 3, 4, here we go. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. The hi-hat technique will be discussed in the separate video, but that's our 4 to the floor there. If we skip down to bar 8, so we're on the 1, 2, 3, 4th line down. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. All right, so we've got a little fill. So we're going to move our right hand from off the hi-hat onto the snare drum and play right, left, right, left. Do those alternate single sticks. Don't try to do it like a one-arm bandit, you know, with one hand, okay? Because we've got to get used to using both hands whenever we are playing fills and whenever we begin to move out around the kit. Let's do that again. 4 to the floor, remember. Starts off with 3, 4, 1, 2, and then the fill. All right. 4 to the floor. We have directly underneath another one. 4 to the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, with the hi-hats, playing quavers up above, and then on beat 4, we're going to play the snare drum at the same time as the bass drum. At the same time. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 to the floor. Directly underneath, not quite 4 to the floor, we've got a crotchet in 1 and then the snare drum on beat 2. And also in that previous bar, which is bar 11, the same sort of thing is going on, but just moved about. This is what I like about this piece. There's a fair bit going on. It's not going too fast whenever we're playing it up to speed, but definitely, as I keep saying in all these pieces, slow them down so that you can work on the techniques involved, okay? Let's look at another 4 to the floor. We have on bar, that is 15. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Finishes on a crotchet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And then we have another fill, but again, we've got 4 to the floor on the bass drum. 1 and 3, 4. and 3, 4. If I leave out the bass drum, I just simply count 1 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Beat 2 is that quaver rest. Okay, now I know that some students struggle with that because they're doing the bass drum, they're doing the 4 crotchets in the bass drum, but then they're not playing everything that sort of follows along with that. So what you want to try to do is cut that bar in half. All right, so 1 and 2. If you're doing it slowly, 1 and 2. And then think about the and 3, 4. 1 and 2. And 3, 4. And then bring those two halves together until you're able to play. Let's do that again. 2, 3, 4. 1 and 3, 4. Okay? Alright, so that's 4 to the floor. There is one more right at the very end where we're simply playing those open hi-hats before finishing off the piece with 2 crashes. Alright, but again, make sure you're keeping all those crotchets nice and steady on the beat. They're worth 1 beat each, as we know, and we need to make sure that we give them the full amount of time. Okay, so let's go back to section B. Let's see what else is new here. So again, we've got not quite 4 to the floor, but we've got crotchets on the bass drum. I'll leave out that crash just for now because we're going to play 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, and then into that bar that we've just looked at. All right, and it's exactly the same down below. And then in bar 12, which is the last bar of page 1, the last bar of page 1, 4th bar of section B, we're going to open the hi-hat. Again, check that out in my separate video, which is to do with all of the grade 1 hi-hat opening techniques in all of the pieces. All right, and I'll discuss that and how we'll go about doing that. But that's what it sounds like. Just remember the playthrough. You can listen to the playthrough and hear me play that, and that'll help you with that too. Right, section C, relatively straightforward, grade 1 drummers, I think. So we're going to play this pattern a few times. 1, 2, and 4, and 1, 2, and 4, and 1, 2, and 4, and 1, 2, and 4. All right, so that's the way you would count that. 1, 2, and 4, and 1. And again, we've seen that in some of the other pieces, and 1. Okay, where we've got that little quiver at the end of the bar pushing us into the next bar, and it keeps the groove moving, doesn't it? Okay, so that crops up again in the very last line before we do those 4 crotchets on the open hi-hat and then finish with those crashes. Okay, so I said these are just short talk-throughs. We're not going to play absolutely everything. If you want to hear everything being played, check out the playthrough. But we're just doing the short talk-through, and then we're going to look at the open hi-hat techniques for this piece, West Coast Rollin', and all the other pieces separately in a separate video, and we'll discuss that and how we technically, physically, mechanically go about playing that, okay? But I hope that helps you with West Coast Roll. I really like that piece. In my day, there wasn't any hip-hop. It was funk, soul, rock, pop, blues, gospel maybe, you know, and but, you know, hip-hop, some really cracker music has come from that part of the world, all right? So, West Coast Rollin', and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next Talk Through video.